Welcome back to Strategic Recovery with Matt Finch, the sacred space where strategy meets soul and science becomes transformation. If you've been with us for a while, you know that this isn't your average recovery podcast. This is where we challenge the outdated, disempowering narratives and offer you a new framework, one rooted in truth, compassion, and actual results. Last week, we built your custom blueprint for healing. 12 transformative assessments that help you understand your unique wiring and a personalized foundation for recovery that fits your brain, your life, and your soul's journey. But today we go underground. We step into the neurochemical engine room, the invisible operating system driving your cravings, your relapses, your mental exhaustion, and maybe even your belief that you're somehow broken. Because here's the truth. You are not broken, you're just biochemically imbalanced. And no one ever taught you how to fix it. Why this episode matters. If you've ever found yourself saying things like, "Why do I keep going back? I've tried everything. Nothing sticks. I just want to feel normal again." If your brain feels like a war zone, foggy, anxious, unmotivated, if your body feels like it's betraying you, if you're tired of white-knuckling recovery and blaming yourself for every setback, then this episode is going to change how you see everything. Because addiction is not just emotional, it's not just spiritual, and it's definitely not a moral failure. It is, for most people, a biochemical crisis in disguise, a chronic neurochemical depletion that drives compulsive behavior, emotional chaos, and that haunting feeling that something inside is always off. The real root of cravings. Here's what nobody told you. Your cravings aren't random. They're not a weakness. They're not a character deficit. They are chemical signals. Your body's way of screaming for balance, safety, and relief. You can't fix a nutritional deficiency with talk therapy, and you can't meditate your way out of a magnesium shortage. When your brain is depleted of the raw materials it needs, dopamine, serotonin, GABA, endorphins, you're not just low energy, you're trapped in a survival loop. That's why most traditional recovery methods, especially those that rely on willpower alone, don't work for everyone. Because when your neurobiology is starving, discipline becomes a war against yourself. But here's the good news. When you start feeding your brain the nutrients, practices, and rhythms it was designed to thrive on, cravings begin to fade, mental clarity returns, motivation reawakens, and you start to feel whole again, not just sober, but free. Here's what you'll learn today. In this episode, we'll explore what's really going on inside your brain and body during addiction and why it matters, why your recovery might feel harder than it should, and how to make it easier, the exact nutrients, habits, and protocols that can rebuild your brain chemistry from the ground up, how to start feeling better, faster, clearer, and stronger without relying on willpower or shame. We're not chasing hacks, we're not stacking supplements blindly, and we're definitely not blaming you for your struggle. We're healing at the root. The biochemical root, because when the chemistry aligns, your soul rises, your spirit breathes, and recovery becomes a natural expression of who you truly are. So if you're ready to stop fighting yourself and start feeling like you again, not one day, not after 90 meetings, not when the fog lifts, but starting today, then let's dive in. This is the science they never taught you. This is the freedom you've been seeking. This is strategic recovery. Let's get into it. The biochemical truth they never told you. For generations, people struggling with addiction have been fed a lie that's been repeated so often, so loudly, and so authoritatively that most people still believe it. The lie says your cravings are a moral failing, that your relapse is proof you're weak, that your inability to just stop means you lack discipline, backbone, or even spiritual integrity. They say addiction is a disease of character, that you're powerless, defective, spiritually lost, emotionally unstable. and that the only way out is to keep repenting forever. But what if none of that is true? What if the real problem isn't your lack of willpower, but a deeper biological imbalance that's been ignored for too long? Addiction is not a choice that anybody makes. It's not a moral failure. What it actually is, it's a response to human suffering. Dr. Gabor Mate. Let that quote sink in. Addiction is not your fault. It's your nervous system's cry for help, not because it wants to destroy you, but because it's been living in a biochemical emergency and it's trying to survive. Cravings are signals, not sins. Your cravings aren't bad. They're not shameful. They're not a sign of weakness. They're chemical messages, urgent signals from a depleted, overworked, and undernourished brain. They're saying, "Help me. Something's missing. I can't regulate myself without external aid." And here's what most treatment models still ignore. Your brain is likely starving, not metaphorically, but literally. Starving for dopamine, the chemical that helps you feel motivated, excited, and alive. Starving for serotonin, the molecule of calm, confidence, and emotional balance. Starving for GABA, your natural tranquilizer, your built-in stress reliever. Starving for endorphins, the natural painkillers that make life feel safe and warm. When these neurotransmitters are depleted through years of stress, trauma, poor sleep, bad food, or substance abuse, your brain enters survival mode. It just wants relief, fast. That's why people relapse even when they want to stay sober. That's why people binge even when they know it's hurting them. That's why just say no is a cruel oversimplification. The real crisis, fighting biology with shame. The real tragedy, we've built entire recovery paradigms around blaming people for a nutrient-starved nervous system. We expect people to pray away a magnesium deficiency, meditate through low dopamine, journal their way out of a serotonin crash, rely on willpower, while their brain is stuck in biochemical chaos. And when it doesn't work, they blame themselves. But here's the real truth. Most recovery systems are too slow or too afraid to acknowledge. You're not failing recovery. Your recovery system is failing you by ignoring the biochemical root. This podcast episode exists to change that. To say, enough. You don't have to keep white-knuckling through a broken system. You don't have to keep beating yourself up for what is, at its core, a solvable, repairable, physiological imbalance. The turning point. Once you understand what's really happening inside your brain, once you see that your cravings are chemistry, not character, you stop fighting yourself and start fighting for yourself. You begin to nourish instead of punish. You begin to heal instead of hide. You begin to rise, not through shame, but through strategy and soul. Because when your brain starts working again, your choices expand, your clarity returns, and your true self begins to reemerge, the one who was never broken to begin with. Addiction and the biochemical crisis. What your body is really trying to do. When you drink, when you use, when you binge, when you relapse, your body isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to save you in the only way it knows how. Addiction is often misunderstood as self-destruction, but in truth, biochemically, it's often self-preservation, a last-ditch effort by your brain and body to restore balance in a system that's chemically depleted, electrically dysregulated, and spiritually exhausted. Addiction isn't madness, it's intelligence gone reactive. It's a biochemical SOS, a signal flaring up from deep inside your nervous system, pleading, "Something's missing, something's off, help me feel normal again." When your neurochemistry is drained, the brain doesn't reach for poetry and philosophy, it reaches for relief. This is the truth most recovery models still overlook. The compulsions aren't random, the urges aren't a mystery. They are chemical compensations. Your brain's attempt to fix a problem that's been buried beneath the surface for too long. The 4 mood types behind addiction. One of the most powerful frameworks we use in strategic recovery is identifying your mood type, a pattern that reveals your dominant neurotransmitter imbalance. Each type comes with its own emotional fingerprint and a specific kind of craving. Here's what they look like. 1. Low dopamine type, the flatliner. How it feels. You wake up tired. You feel uninspired. The world seems gray, tasteless, and meaningless. Even things that once lit you up now feel meh. Your brain's message. I can't find joy. I can't find focus. I need a spark. What you chase. Sugar, coffee, porn, alcohol, chaos, drama, risky decisions, anything that promises to flood your brain with dopamine and wake you up from the numbness. This isn't a craving for pleasure, it's a craving for aliveness. 2. Low serotonin type, the anxious overthinker. How it feels. You overanalyze everything. You catastrophize. You lie awake at night, spinning in anxious loops. You feel rigid, easily overwhelmed, emotionally brittle. Your brain's message. Everything feels unsafe. I can't relax. I need control. What you chase. Food, sedatives, obsessive routines, controlling behaviors, or substances that deliver emotional safety and predictability. This isn't about weakness. It's about an underfed serotonin system screaming for peace. 3. Low GABA type, the wired and tired. How it feels. You're constantly on. Even when you're exhausted, your mind won't stop. You're jumpy, reactive, stressed out, and overstimulated. Your brain's message. I can't slow down. I can't breathe. I need stillness. What you chase. Alcohol, benzos, weed, sleep aids, or food binges. Anything that can numb the sensory overload and finally help you turn off. You're not lazy, you're frazzled. Your nervous system is stuck in 5th gear and it needs a way to hit the brakes. 4. Low endorphins type, the sensitive soul. How it feels. Everything feels a bit too sharp, emotionally raw. You feel the pain of the world and don't know what to do with it. Loneliness creeps in. You crave deep connection but feel disconnected from yourself and others. Your brain's message. I feel broken. I feel alone. I need comfort. What you chase. Junk food, opioids, romantic intensity, fantasy, or even self-harm. Anything that creates a fleeting moment of soothing and safety. You don't need punishment. You need nourishment. Deep, emotional, and biochemical nourishment. Why this matters. When you understand your mood type, you can stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what's missing from my chemistry, my care, my nourishment? This is how we turn the corner. This is how we stop fighting addiction as a moral issue and start healing it as a biological one. You're not broken. You're not crazy. You're not doomed. Your cravings are messengers, not enemies. And when you finally give your brain what it's really asking for, the chase ends, the chaos quiets, and peace begins to rise. The catch: escaping the biochemical trap. Here's where it gets tricky, even tragic, because for many people trapped in the cycle of addiction, the thing that's hurting them is also the only thing that seems to help, at least for a moment. Alcohol, drugs, porn, food, nicotine, even overworking or binge watching, they all provide a quick chemical reward, a temporary correction to an internal imbalance. Maybe it's relief, maybe it's connection, maybe it's stillness, maybe it's energy. But whatever it is, it feels like salvation in the moment. At last, my brain feels normal. This is what it's like to be okay. But here's the tragic paradox. The very thing that gives you that short-term relief is slowly robbing you of your long-term resilience. Because every time we reach for a chemical crutch, the brain adapts. It downregulates natural production. It grows more dependent. And the baseline, the natural feel-good setting, drops lower and lower. Welcome to the biochemical trap. Let's break it down. 1. You feel bad. 2. You use something to feel better. 3. It works, temporarily. 4. But the brain compensates by reducing its own natural chemistry. 5. So next time, you need more. 6. And more. 7. Until eventually, you don't even feel good anymore. You just feel less bad. 8. And not having it becomes unbearable. This is the biochemical trap. A cruel loop of diminishing returns that has nothing to do with weakness and everything to do with neurochemical debt. It's like pouring gasoline into a leaking engine. You rev up, but you burn out. And then, one day, the engine won't start at all. First, the man takes a drink. Then the drink takes a drink. Then the drink takes the man. F. Scott Fitzgerald. This isn't a failure of willpower. It's a hijacking of chemistry. You're not crazy. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're chemically cornered, trying to navigate a terrain that was never explained to you, using tools that don't fit the job. This is why people relapse, even when they desperately want to change, because the cravings aren't just psychological. They're physiological. They're chemical alarms going off inside the brain, demanding relief from a deficit no one taught you how to fill. So what now? We stop shaming people for seeking relief. We stop calling cravings moral failures, and we start fixing what's actually broken. Neurotransmitter depletion, nutrient imbalances, stress overload, blood sugar instability, sleep disruption, nervous system dysregulation. This is not about excuse making, it's about root cause repair. Because when the biology is broken, no amount of guilt or grit will hold the system together. You can't hate yourself into healing, but you can nourish yourself back to wholeness. So what's the solution? Let's get one thing perfectly clear once and for all. You can't meditate your way out of a nutrient deficiency. You can't journal your way out of a neurotransmitter crash. And you sure as hell can't white-knuckle your way through biochemical chaos and expect lasting change. If your brain is starving, if your nervous system is stuck in survival mode, if your body is depleted from years of stress, substances, and soul-fragmenting trauma, then no amount of mindset, mantras, or motivation will be enough. This doesn't mean those things aren't important. They are. But if your hardware is fried, then your software won't run properly. And this is where most recovery systems fall short. They teach coping skills, but not cellular repair. They focus on mindset while the body is screaming for nourishment. They demand willpower while the biochemistry is hijacked. Strategic recovery is different. We don't just treat symptoms, we heal the root. We believe in rebuilding the inner ecosystem so your body, brain, and spirit can return to balance and stay there. This isn't just abstinence, it's restoration. True recovery isn't about abstaining, it's about restoring what was lost, rebuilding what was damaged, and nourishing what was neglected. This is strategic. This is holistic. This is biochemical realignment with soul-level integrity. Let's break it down into 3 core recovery inputs you can begin using today. How to rewire your brain one input at a time. Addiction isn't just about behavior, it's about biology. And biology needs more than willpower. It needs fuel, structure, and strategy. So let's break down the 3 foundational input categories that can restore your brain chemistry, regulate your nervous system, and help you reclaim your power from the inside out. 1. Targeted amino acids. brain repair from the inside out. Your brain doesn't run on motivation. It runs on neurotransmitters: dopamine, serotonin, GABA, and endorphins. These are your emotional operating system, the molecules that govern your mood, cravings, focus, resilience, and rest. And what builds those chemicals? Amino acids, the building blocks of protein. When your brain is depleted, as it often is after chronic substance use, stress, trauma, or poor nutrition, supplementing with the right amino acids can literally jumpstart healing from the inside out. Here are some of the most effective options. L-tyrosine replenishes dopamine for motivation, drive, and mental clarity. 5-HTP or L-tryptophan restores serotonin for emotional stability, sleep, and optimism. GABA or L-theanine calms overstimulation, supports peace and deep rest. DLPA, D-L-phenylalanine, boosts natural endorphins for pleasure, pain tolerance, and emotional resilience. These are natural, over-the-counter compounds used in cutting-edge orthomolecular and functional recovery programs. They help your brain remember how to feel good without reaching outside yourself. Important: always consult a qualified practitioner before beginning new supplements, especially if you're on prescription medications. This isn't about DIY, it's about doing it right. 2. Minerals, macronutrients, and food as medicine. Your brain isn't just a chemistry set, it's an electrical circuit, and no electrical system functions without the right minerals. When these systems are depleted, no amount of therapy or effort will click. You'll feel foggy, drained, dysregulated. But when you restore key micronutrients, everything starts to come back online. Here's what matters most. B vitamins, especially B6, B12, folate, fuel neurotransmitter creation, energy metabolism, and stress recovery. Magnesium relaxes muscles, reduces anxiety, supports deep sleep, and calms the HPA axis. Zinc supports immune repair, hormonal balance, and dopamine synthesis. Protein delivers the amino acids you just learned about. Stable blood sugar prevents mood crashes, panic attacks, and desperate cravings. Pro tips for food-based healing. Protein at every meal. Stabilize mood and blood sugar. Avoid sugar, seed oils, and ultra-processed food. They destabilize your entire neuroendocrine system. Hydrate deeply. Aim for half your body weight in ounces of clean water per day. Think of every bite not as calories, but as neurochemical input. You're not just feeding your body, you're rebuilding your brain. 3. Lifestyle as nervous system medicine. Most people think of recovery as abstinence, but real transformation happens through daily practices that retrain your nervous system for safety, clarity, and strength. These habits don't just improve your day, they reprogram your baseline, shifting you from chaos to coherence. Here's how to turn your lifestyle into medicine. Sunlight within 30 minutes of waking resets circadian rhythms, boosts serotonin and dopamine. Daily movement releases endorphins, reduces stress hormones, builds mental resilience. Cold exposure, showers or plunges, increases dopamine by up to 250% and tones the vagus nerve. Deep daily breathing activates parasympathetic response and calms panic. Consistent, high-quality sleep restores neurotransmitters and detoxifies your brain. Mindful solitude, nature time, and tech breaks rebalance overstimulation and restore clarity. These aren't fringe ideas. They're clinically validated, ancestrally aligned, and spiritually liberating. And when combined with nutrition and targeted supplements, you no longer have to fight your biology. You partner with it. When we heal the body, we liberate the mind. And when we nourish the brain, we set the soul free. When you rebalance your brain. When you rebalance your brain, everything shifts, everything softens, everything stabilizes. You don't wake up dreading the day, already locked in an invisible battle. You don't white-knuckle your way through cravings that feel like tidal waves. You don't brace for impact, afraid that the next slip-up is just one bad mood away. Why? Because your brain isn't stuck in survival mode anymore. Because your nervous system is no longer broadcasting an emergency signal 24/7. Because your internal chemistry, once hijacked by depletion and dysfunction, has finally come back online. It's like swapping out a glitchy, overheating operating system for one that runs smoothly, quietly, and powerfully beneath the surface. No more random crashes, no more spinning wheels, no more blue screen of doom. You stop feeling like an enemy to yourself. Instead of obsessing over urges, you experience space. Instead of forcing restraint, you embody balance. Instead of fearing relapse, you feel rooted in a place of internal safety. It's not discipline, it's biochemical peace. The kind of peace that happens when your brain has the fuel it needs, and your soul finally has a body that feels like home. Healing may begin in the mind, but it's sustained in the body. And when your brain is in harmony, peace is no longer a concept. It's a felt reality. You start to feel things you forgot were possible. A grounded calm that doesn't come from trying harder. A steady confidence that doesn't need external validation. A genuine clarity that isn't interrupted by inner chaos. A rising joy, subtle but unmistakable. And here's the twist. You don't have to try to reclaim your power anymore. You simply remember. It was never lost. It was just buried beneath the noise. Recovery isn't about white-knuckling your way through urges. It's about giving your brain the conditions it needs to regulate itself. And when your body, mind, and spirit begin to align, you no longer chase recovery like a destination on a map. You become it. Final thoughts. You are not broken, you're biochemically depleted. Let's set the record straight once and for all. You're not an addict, you're not broken, you're not weak, you're not morally flawed, you're not spiritually defective. You are a human being with a brilliant, sensitive, intelligent nervous system that's been pushed beyond its limit over and over again. And like any system under chronic stress, your body and brain have been crying out for balance. The question is never why the addiction, but why the pain. Dr. Gabor Mate. Addiction is not the problem. It's the expression of a deeper problem. A biochemical depletion, an emotional ache, a spiritual disconnection. And now you've been given a lens that most people never receive. A lens that reveals your cravings as chemical messengers, not moral failures. A lens that shows your behavior as adaptation, not destruction. A lens that empowers you with tools, not shame. Because here's the truth. Your cravings aren't random. They're logical. They're chemical. They're flexible. They're fixable. You haven't failed. You've simply been trying to function without the right fuel. You've been depleted, but never defeated. And now, for the first time, you have the map to climb out. Your next step, rebuild from the inside out. First, take the mood type assessment. Uncover your personal neurochemical blueprint. This will help you identify the root imbalances behind your cravings, compulsions, and energy dips. This isn't another system that asks you to just try harder. This is a system designed to actually work with your biology, so your recovery isn't an uphill battle. Because here's what no one tells you. When your brain works, you work. Your cravings fade, your thoughts stabilize, your emotions make sense, and you don't just resist addiction, you transcend it. What's next? From biochemistry to soul. In our next episode, we'll go deeper into the emotional root of addiction. What pain have you been trying to numb? What parts of you have been abandoned? What are you really searching for? Because once your brain begins to heal, your heart begins to speak. And what it wants is not punishment, but peace. Until then, Keep going, keep nourishing, keep remembering. You are not too far gone. You are not too late. You are never, ever alone. You can heal. You can thrive. You can come home to yourself. You just need the right inputs. And now you have them.